To me, peace means a state of alignment between my spirit and my physical realm. That means whatever I do or say must be accepted by my spirit, must be in line with my belief system. If it's not in line, then I don't have peace. So, for example, if I have an argument with somebody and I walk away from that situation without apologizing, without asking for forgiveness and making things right, then I walk away without peace, right? That causes me not to have peace. I would have to come back to that person and apologize so that we fix things, then my peace will be restored, right? So I've always had to do that. But when I chose a life of peace, I then decided whenever I have an argument with somebody, I must make sure that I don't walk away from that space without fixing things, because then it means I'm going to walk away without having peace. So I've also realized that actually choosing a peaceful life is hard work, right? It is so easy to be offended and walk away and never talk to the person again, but it takes a lot of courage to say, when things are heated, I'm going to humble myself. Or when you've had an argument with someone, and even if it wasn't my fault, to come back and say, you know what, I am sorry. That takes a lot of courage. And I've become somebody I never thought I'd become as a result of choosing a life of peace, right? So it's something that I never thought about when I made the decision. But when I started living the life of peace, I realized it takes a lot of work. So today I want to talk to you about 3 odd reasons why we need peace in our lives. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner voice magnified. So I call them odd reasons because it's things that I never I thought about, rather, when I thought about peace. I never thought peace had anything to do with these things directly anyway. So that's why I call them odd. The first thing is that when you live a peaceful life, you stop being irritable. If you're a person who's forever offended, if you're a person who can't take a lot of jokes, it takes a very special day for you to laugh at somebody's joke without analyzing it, without reading between the lines or seeing beyond what they are saying. You are just an angry person. It doesn't take a lot to set you off, right? I tell you, when you choose a life of peace, then you stop becoming irritable, because peace becomes your responsibility. You know that nobody can take away your peace unless you give it away, right? So when you have a peaceful life, you stop being irritable because you start sifting the information that you receive on the inside of you, right? So you start managing or building strategies to block information that is not received well by your spirit, and you only allow what makes sense to your spirit. So when you do that, when you start taking things lightly, then you become light yourself. You start enjoying jokes from people. You stop constantly reading between the lines. And I'm not talking about being irritable in a day or whatever. That's something else. But there are people who are just chronically irritable, right? People who just, when you are with them, you have to walk on eggshells, right? Because they are just so fragile. Anything can send them up the roof. Anything can rub them the wrong way, right? So if you're like that, I tell you, when you choose a life of peace, then you'll see that your irritability becomes lesser and lesser, and you start enjoying life, because nobody enjoys to be offended all the time. I can imagine that you get exhausted from being constantly offended by people. So when you choose a peaceful life, then you're basically saying, you know what, I will choose what I accept. I will choose what I see as the truth. Then whatever is not the truth for me, I will kick it out. And that's how you start having peace, right? The second thing that peace gives you is that you experience a mindset shift. Hey, I never thought of peace and mindset shift, but I realized when I started trying to build a life of peace that it actually is a lot of work to be a peaceful person. And it is also, it takes also a mindset shift, because the things that used to upset you, now you have to shift your mind, you have to shift your perspective to see them in a loving way, right? Sometimes you realize that people are not always out to get you. When you choose a life of peace, when somebody does something to you, the first thought then becomes, maybe this person is not well today, right? Not unless it becomes a trend. That's when you can start looking at it and addressing it. But you start understanding that in a day, somebody can say something, but not intentionally, just because they are going through the most, right? So you start looking at things in a more loving way. When you love a person, or when you have a friend, or you've got your partner, if they do something to you and this person generally, or when you like a person, when they do something to you, we always have that, leniency to say maybe they are not well, maybe something is wrong with them. But if it's somebody that we don't like, we are so quick to want to accept, right? That no, they meant to be rude, whatever it is, right? So when you have peace, then you start looking at everyone with the eye of a loved one, right? With the eye that you use to look at your significant others, right? So you are able to look beyond the things that people say and try to search what the soul is saying at that time. So you really become a different person. Your mindset shifts so much, and that is one other thing that I never associated with having peace. The last thing that peace gives you is success. When you have a peaceful life, or when you've chosen a peaceful life, then you don't dwell on disappointments for a long time. You become resilient, and when you are resilient, then you pick yourself up quickly in order to search out for new opportunities, right? And your relationships become successful as well, because you start looking at people with the loving eye, right? Whatever things people do to you or say to you, you start trying to look beyond what they're saying, because you start hearing and accepting philosophies that say, hating people hurt people, right? So you start accepting such principles in your life, and you apply it to everybody without discrimination, right? So you become successful in everything that you do, because you don't dwell on disappointments as much. And the quicker you can bounce back from a disappointment, the quicker you can pick yourself up and try again, right? For instance, how many times have my conversations with Pulaa Montz fumbled, right? I'll be so disappointed. I'll be so sad. But I'll pick myself up so quickly and try again tomorrow. And you find that the more I do stuff, the more I start becoming perfect, right? The more I start enjoying what I'm doing, the more I start learning these systems. If you know me and technology are not like this. But having a life of peace has helped me to not dwell too much on my disappointments and just jump out of it and try again, right? And that's how I started being able at least to deal with. I'm still at a really mild level of doing this technology thing, but at least I'm not where I used to be, right? So peace gives you success in all the areas of your life. It is easy to get upset with people. It is easy to blame people for what you're feeling. It is easy to want to put blame on other people for things that have happened to you, for where you are in life right now. It is so easy just to not have peace in your life. But it takes a special kind of person to be able to have peace, and special in the sense that a person who's determined, because it doesn't mean that you get born with peace in your spirit and that's it for you. No, you develop a life of peace. So it takes a special person to want to develop a life of peace, because when you want a life of peace, it also requires you to have humility like you've never had before. You stop saying things like, do they know who I am? Nobody speaks to me like this, right? Pride steps aside when you are living a life of peace. You become such a humble person, and you become such a loving person as well. And you adjust well. I mean, for me, when I'm at peace, my spirit is just so well, and my situation doesn't have to be changed. As long as I've got peace in my spirit, then I constantly have hope for a better future. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner peace and purpose coach.